I'm good. How you doing?
Good to see you. Good. Hi, I'm Lou.
TJ.
TJ, nice to meet you. Is this okay, or do you want to look for someplace else?
I think this works. We'll probably be on the end. Maybe open that up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to do is totally fine. My partner in Five Star Dave is actually our landlord, so he bought this building in 2006, and it was a 150,000 square foot warehouse.
Yeah.
So he renovated, there's 50,000 square foot of finished office space, of which we have a floor. And then the rest of the space is warehouse space. So it took him about 2 years to do the renovations. It was really the first kind of thing in this area. It's still mostly light industrial, but even none of that is really over there, like the, UPMC and Manchester Craftsman, they did little training centers down here. And then they opened a cafe about 4 years ago down in the lobby.
Yeah, I saw that when we were coming up. It's a good spot. I mean, being out of the way probably also has its benefits in addition to
yeah.
unfamiliar.
Well, it's nice. It's probably one of the only areas in the city that there aren't any parking meters.
Yeah.
We do have a small garage, but it doesn't have kind of like, you have to have a phone to get
Battery
access
and
to
memory
it.
card are already in there.
Okay, are you using this?
I don't think so. I think we'll just use the audio. I'll pull the audio from the headphones for that.
All right.
Listen to some NPR stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so we'll just get set up here for a couple.
Do you need a few minutes?
Yeah, it might just be like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
all right.
I'll leave you to it and then I'll come back.
We're recording here. We good, TJ? Yep. Cool. So Lou, welcome to Going Deep with Aaron Watson. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
I'm excited to be talking with you. You started Five Star, we're in the office right now, back in 1997. And I wanted to start off the conversation just by having you paint us a picture of what you were doing at that point in time, what the impetus was for starting your own company and starting Five Star.
Sure. So my partner Dave Colaizzi and I started Five Star back in March of 1997. And Dave and I, make kind of a long story short, met at a trade show in Manhattan that I just happened to attend. And I was working for a multimedia development company in Rochester, New York, where I was living. And multimedia at that point was we were developing interactive video discs. I mean, the kind of the initial interactive technology. So Dave started doing some consulting work for us. He was based here in Pittsburgh, and then the company I was working for, we hired him. So he moved to Rochester, and we worked together in that company for about 2.5 years together. And the primary focus at that point was the design and development of interactive training programs, which is what interactive video disc was primarily used for. So my overall background initially was in video production and post-production. So I have a broadcast communications degree. I worked for like cable channels and TV stations, and then wound up working for a video production, post-production company in Rochester. So when Dave decided to leave the company because he really wanted to get back to Pittsburgh, we kept in touch, and we just started talking about the idea of opening up Five Star, really for a couple of different reasons. I mean, we definitely wanted to be able to work in an environment where agility was kind of the framework. In other words, have the ability to make kind of the decisions we wanted to make, when we wanted to make them, and how we needed to make them. And we wanted to create an environment that we wanted to work in as well. So the objective was to create a company where we can get really good people doing interesting and challenging work with great clients in an environment that always had some level of kind of work-life balance. I mean, that was really the focus. So when we started Five Star, our primary focus at that point was on the design and development of interactive training programs, which at that point was CD-ROM based deliverables. So I commuted back and forth between here in Rochester for about 14 months. I would typically drive down on Monday morning and drive back on Friday afternoons. I actually lived with Dave for most of that. The first couple of months we actually lived with his parents because Dave was just relocating here and getting a house as well. So we worked really, really closely together. But we wanted to get kind of a year under our belt before my family moved down here. So that was really kind of the impetus. And then what happened very quickly into the genesis of the company is that we had a couple of clients that started asking us about software application development, because at that point, particularly in Pittsburgh, the market was just starting to move to client server, which was a little bit late in the curve, but because Pittsburgh was one of the first cities to do a lot of mainframe work, there were a lot of legacy systems in place that people were using. So when kind of client server came in, that was more of a transition. So we're actually doing a project at that point for Mellon Bank. We were doing a training project, and they asked us if we could develop a software application that would be a learning management system to help manage all of the process around learning. And that's really how we kind of got into software development. So over the years, we've kind of gone from being 100% training to now about 5 to 10% of what we do is interactive training programs, but the bulk of what we do is the design and development of custom web and web mobile solutions. And I could talk a little bit about kind of where those kind of customers are. But over the years, our philosophy has always been kind of built to evolve. So I don't know if you might have heard of like built to last, like Jim Collins, which was a book we used when it came out, and it really helped shape a lot of our thinking. But as we kind of looked at the company, we looked at it as more as kind of built to evolve. So kind of stay true to the core of what was kind of important to us, but be able to take advantage of either opportunities that our clients would bring to us as things that they were looking for us to do, or to a degree things that we would have identified that we thought were, things that could be beneficial to our clients and new clients. So even during that transition from training to technology, there was a period of time where we were doing a lot of culture work. In other words, helping organizations assess their culture, what they really needed to do to kind of improve culture and help them do that through training programs and technology. We were doing a lot of work in change management because we found that we were doing a lot of training programs and technology deliverables, but they weren't necessarily meeting their full expectation, not because it wasn't a good project, but because the organization wasn't really prepared for it. So we brought somebody on board that had a lot of experience in change management, so we were able to offer more of kind of a holistic solution, so that when someone was rolling out a new application, we can help them get a good understanding of kind of where their team members are, where they need to be, how we need to move them along through communications, culture, training. So when the software was actually executed, people were really kind of ready, able, and willing to do that type of implementation. So, we've always kind of looked at different types of approaches. Now, the focus is really predominantly on the technology. So we're continually looking at kind of new tools and new processes. And we have two different types of customers. So traditionally, the bulk of our customers have been divisions of large corporations, both in training and technology. And our model was more of an account-based model. So we did a lot of repeat business and referral as part of that. We would get in, we do a good job, people would ask us back, and we would do more work. Once kind of the recession hit, there was a big downturn in training, first of all, and also it became a little bit harder for a company our size because we're still relatively small. I mean, we have, roughly 25 people. I mean, we like that size because it keeps us agile and, we kind of ebb and flow a little bit. But ultimately, it was harder and harder for a company our size to get into new, bigger accounts. I mean, there were just a lot of changes in purchasing that made that kind of difficult. So we still have clients that we work with that were clients we had before the recession. I mean, we have clients that we've literally been working with since day one. But we started, thinking about other ways that we could apply what we did. And at that point, I was on the Workforce Development Committee for the Allegheny Conference, and it was right when kind of the shale industry started to blossom here. And they were working with Westmoreland Community College on a federal grant to help build capacity for employment in the natural gas industry. So one of the things we talked about was developing an application that could be used as part of that process that would give potential candidates an understanding of what it was actually like to work with those jobs in the industry, and ultimately have some simple assessments that they could take to see if they could be a fit, so that when they decided to apply for training through the grant, there was some level of kind of pre-qualification. So we developed a lot of kind of realistic job preview type videos that a person could look at and see what it was really like. Do I think I like this work? Do I think I'm a good fit for that work? So think of it as kind of a combination of like a LinkedIn and a Match.com type of approach. And ultimately what happened is they were incredibly successful with that grant. They exceeded all of their metrics in terms of the amount of people they would attract to the program, train in the program, and would be employed for a year or more post-program. I mean, they just did a phenomenal job. West Maury Community College doing a lot of things right. It definitely helped to the degree that people coming to the program knew what they were getting into. So they didn't have a lot of people dropping out because they had a pretty good idea of what it was going to be like. Because what happens a lot is, people go through the training program and then they'll actually get on location and they're like, this just isn't for me. So the application, ShaleNet, helped them understand that. And the way Westmoreland Community College ran that program, they ran it like you would be working in the industry. So it was like 3 straight weeks, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And literally, if you showed up 5 minutes late on the last day, you wouldn't pass. So they did a great job with that. So the long and the short of that is that kind of opened up a new area for us, which is this whole kind of space of workforce development. And there are a lot of, really great people in organizations like community colleges and workforce investment boards that just day in and day out are focused on what their region needs in terms of employment based on in-demand occupations, and what type of programs need to be developed so that you can take people that are kind of being exited out of one industry and move to another industry as quickly as possible. So we've done a number of different kind of projects in that area, all around this concept of workforce development and all around this concept of helping people find kind of the right fit for them, the right type of training program that would be a right fit for them, and then how do they kind of quickly get into the workforce and make that transition.
Didn't seem like your first time. You're pretty good at that.
This is great. Well, again, you're very, very, I listened to a lot of the podcasts and stuff, and I know that you definitely listen, which is great. I mean, it's a lot of, you let people do a lot of talking, which I think is great. So that's another one of my pet peeves. Like, I don't know if you listen to NPR at all, but it just drives me crazy how much hosts and interviewers just interrupt people when they're trying to make a point. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, what initially attracted me to the medium in the very first place was all these other, and I mean, I guess it's still happening in podcasts, but a lot of the other forms of media lend themselves to people talking over one another or jumping in with the quick talking point or hot take, and the ability to build context. It's deeply intellectually stimulating for me at minute 22 to reference something that you said at minute 3 and then build off of that. To me, that is painting this much deeper narrative that we're otherwise not getting access to. So that's, to me, the fun of it more so than anything else. So I appreciate the kind of
That's great.
Thank you for watching. I'm really curious what your biggest takeaway was from the conversation with Lou. He's been in business 21 years. He's gone through so much. You may be on an earlier stage in your journey. What takeaway from Lou's story are you going to use to build your business? Let me know in the comments below. Hi, I'm Aaron, the CEO and founder of Piper Creative. And one of the most humbling facts about this channel is that our intern TJ has 760 times as many subscribers as us. Please subscribe so we can catch up.